And welcome back to Hardball Sports Talk, brought to you by Hardball Sports Media. My name is Brandon, and like always, I'm joined by Alex. Alex, how are you today?
Oh, good, Brendan. I have to adjust my mic here. All right, I'm good. How about you?
It's been kind of a crazy weekend, ready for this Christmas season. I hope
Mm-hmm.
you guys are all ready and excited for the next week and a half, even though it's going to be crazy busy for most of the country. But we do have some exciting stuff in sports going on next week and a half, also with all these bowl games and a lot of NFL games. And then if you're into basketball, the NBA has a lot of games this time of year too. So it's an exciting time to be a sports fan. Not that there isn't an exciting time to be a sports fan, if you ask me. We were just talking about that actually. Uh, we were talking about what we're going to do with this show before or after the NFL season. And I go, I'm not really worried about it. We're both big sports guys. We don't just watch football, we watch hockey, baseball, football, not as much in the basketball, but and as I'm speaking right now, I got the wings on. They're just about to drop the puck here. So, yeah. Must win game here for the Wings, if you ask me. Anyways, we're not talking too much hockey tonight. Today, we are going to stick mainly with football. We do have some Tiger stuff to go over with you guys. But before we get started, if you guys are just joining us for the first time, thank you guys so much for checking us out. We are now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch streaming. So pretty exciting times. I did in the link in the descriptions. I put our Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So if you are checking us out for the first time, be sure to check us out on all those pages. The Facebook page, I'm trying to get that to be more active. So if you guys are on there, I had a post on there Monday after our recording. We're gonna do an episode next week, probably on Tuesday, because next Monday is Christmas and that's our recording day is Monday. But for sure, I'll get you guys on the dates when we figure it out. But we're gonna do a topic that is really interesting, and it's basically who is, if there's any, that is the Babe Ruth of sports right now, or if there's any or multiple. And I don't. What I mean by that is my wife is not a sports person at all. But if you ask her who Babe Ruth was, she'll say, "Oh, he was a baseball player." Babe Ruth has not played baseball since the 1920s, 1930s. Like, I don't know the last year he played was, but it wasn't last year. And it's crazy that non-sports people know who Babe Ruth is. So that's kind of the thought process behind that is who in sports will just random citizens know, like your average citizen know in 100 years. And it's going to be a little bit different. I understand that because Babe Ruth didn't have social media back in the day. So I'm sure there'll be more guys out there. But that's basically the thought behind that one. So if you guys have anybody, message us on Facebook, even better yet, leave a comment on that post. Link for the Facebook page, like I said, is in the description. That is what that episode will be about. And then we want to do more rankings on like sports movies and stuff like that, and we'll put that kind of stuff on Facebook too. So let's get that page active. Let's get this to grow, and exciting times are up ahead, I feel, for Hardball Sports. With all that being said, though, let's get started on today's episode. The first thing we want to bring up is Jack Flaherty, pitcher. Last year pitched for St. Louis and Baltimore. Signed a 1-year contract with the Tigers. I believe, let me look at the numbers. I have the article up right here. He signed a 1-year deal for $14 million with a chance to make an extra $1 million in incentives. Not a long contract by any stretch of imagination, but it's a decent amount of money for a pitcher. It's a bet on yourself contract, but yet at the same time, he's got some guaranteed money in the pocket. I like the signing personally. The money might be a little too rich for my blood, but I also understand that's just how sports work now. If you want to get somebody, you got to pay them. And we saw what Chris Fetter and company did with Michael Lorenzen last year. No offense to Michael Lorenzen, but he's not an all-star pitcher. And yet with Now, granted, it's because the Tigers didn't have anybody else for the All-Star game. I get that. Michael Lorenzen did represent the Detroit Tigers in the All-Star game last year. And they did trade him away to the – who'd they trade him away to last year?
Was it Philadelphia?
Yeah, Philadelphia. And they got a mid-level prospect in return, which that's best case scenario for Michael Lorenzen is getting a mid-level prospect that may play some games in the big leagues down the road. That's best case scenario for a guy like Michael Lorenzen. So Flaherty, though, I think the ceiling is obviously higher
Mm-hmm.
than Lorenzen, and he's also younger. He's only 28 this year, so it's basically a bet on himself contract because he'll be a free agent again next year. And if he can put some good video on, and Chris, I can't say enough good things about that guy. That pitching coach is and the pitching staff for the Tigers is just amazing. They've gotten the best out of a lot of pitchers, and the pitching depth for the Tigers has really been tested the last 2-3 years, if not longer, with a lot of injuries. So the Tigers going out this year and signing now two starters with Jack Flaherty and Kenta Maeda. I like it. I think we need to get a couple more pitchers though.
Mm-hmm.
Bring back Andrew Chafin. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. So they're not getting the big name free agent now. Yamamoto, he's still on the market. I have been seeing that he wants something crazy like $300 million. And if that's the case, please do not bring him in.
Right.
We don't need any more big contracts in Detroit right now. We're not at that point of our rebuild yet. But I like the moves that the Tigers have made. I know fans want the big splash free agent. I do too, to an extent, but not at what cost is my question.
Right.
And it's not worth the big money if you ask me. There's really nobody out there that's really worth the money except for Shohei, but the Tigers were never in the market for Shohei. So, but what are your thoughts on the Flaherty signing and the Tigers offseason overall so far?
One thing I would say is we can always use pitching.
Yeah.
I think we were on the higher end of the teams last year with how many pitchers started a game. And
probably like 30. And I don't even think I'm exaggerating there.
No, I think you're right. That's what I'm saying. It does not hurt to have sign all these pitchers. And with some of the injuries that we had to our younger guys, it's nice knowing that we have a few veteran presence there to pitch us some games.
Yep. So now it looks like the top of the rotation for the Tigers will be, I would still put Tariq Skubal at 1, and then Kenta Maeda, Jack Flaherty 2 and 3, whatever floats your boat. Casey Mize, if he's healthy, would be 4. And then that fifth spot, it's between Matt Manning, Reese Olson, a couple other guys in the mix. And then you never know, they might go out and sign somebody else. But the pitching is there for the Tigers right now if they stay healthy. Now, the issue there is if they stay healthy.
Yeah.
Which, like we said, has been an issue the last couple of years for the Tigers. Speaking of healthy, though, moving to football, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who signed with the Lions, safety from the Eagles, signed with the Lions this past offseason. He played in 2 or 3 games this year and then tore his pectoral muscle, which everyone thought was going to end the season. But he's actually coming back to practice. I haven't heard if he's playing this week. I will be personally shocked if he does play.
I don't think he's expected to play this week.
Yeah, I don't think he's expected to play. Yeah. That's kind of the impression I've gotten. But if you can get him in against the Cowboys maybe, or the second game against the Vikings right before the playoffs, get him some reps in, and then hopefully stay healthy, obviously. That's going to help this defense, who needs all the reinforcements they can get right now. They had a better showing against Denver, and we'll talk about that game in a second. But this defense does need some help. Obviously, allowing 26 straight points or more, or 26 game points or more in every game since the bye week. It's just not good enough for this defense and the offense can't be relied to carry everything. The Lions are set up with their roster to play with a lead and not come back from a deficit. Now they can come back from a deficit, but that's not their strength.
Right.
We don't have the gunslinger Matthew Stafford back there anymore. We don't have a Calvin Johnson back wide receiver. We have good wide receivers, and Jared Goff is a serviceable quarterback. Like, I'm not dissing on them, but it's just not the formula right now for the Lions. Their formula is run the ball, play action, screen, short passes, and then every once in a while throwing over the top to JMO. That's the offensive strategy for the Lions, but not every play go to JMO.
Right.
So getting CJ Gardner-Johnson back will help the entire team, I think. And then another injury, I don't believe he's coming back to practice this week, or I haven't heard anything about him, but another injury they need to get back is James Houston,
Yes.
the edge rusher. They need him back too. Hopefully he'll be back for the playoffs. I haven't heard anything, but they need somebody on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson.
Big time.
Because, yeah, Hutch isn't getting the numbers, but if you watch the games, he's making impacts. Like, he's
Yeah,
not.
especially when you have to, motion your tight end over to chip him
Yeah.
along with the tackle or whatever. He's making that impact. It's just he needs the other guys to step up and do their job when he's taking double, sometimes triple team,
Yep.
and the other guys can't beat the one-on-ones.
Yep. Another player that's injured right now that hopefully will be back in time for the playoffs is Aleem McNeil, defensive tackle. He sprained his ankle, I believe, either Thanksgiving or against the Saints, one of those two games. I think it was against the Saints.
I think it was the Saints, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully he'll be back here in time for the playoffs, because just like Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil's a run stuffer.
Mm-hmm.
And he can also impact the passing game, and it opens up Hutchinson to an extent too, just because you can't double team an edge rusher when you got somebody in the middle that can wreak havoc.
Right.
But in the meantime, the Lions' defensive strategy against the Broncos, and we'll talk about that game now, was blitz now and ask questions later.
Aggressiveness.
And aggressiveness, which is what they need to do. But there were some plays on this one, and I don't know if it was blown coverages or just how the blitz worked, but it felt like if they couldn't get to Russell Wilson right away, that it was going to be a big play, especially early on. The first couple drives, the Broncos had some big plays, which is, I guess, part of the blitz, but it just felt like they didn't scheme up anything for other receivers for the Broncos. But at the end of the day, they won, and they were able to limit the Broncos. This week, they have the Vikings, and I think they should use a very similar strategy. We'll talk about that game, though, in a little bit. On the offense, it was nice to see Jared Goff come back from not turning the ball over all the time.
Right.
After like all those games in a row where he threw the interceptions, fumbled snaps. It was nice having Frank Ragnow back. I really think that helped a lot with the snaps, because I think with Glass now, he's fumbled 2 or 3 snaps from him in the last few weeks. So it's nice to have the offensive line relatively healthy this week. And then Sam Laporta just continues to impress. 3 touchdowns on Saturday night. That was huge. The running game, both running backs, Gibbs and Montgomery, just feed them. And like I said, the Lions' strength is run the ball, play action pass, and that's what Goff is best at too, is play action pass. Like, that's where Goff excels, and then if you have a shot down deep, you have JMO, who has all the speed in the world. And I like how they're creative with him too, on doing the reverses and stuff like that with him. So I don't know where this Lions team is going to end up this year. They're the one team. There's really no team in the NFL that you look at and say, yep, that's the Super Bowl winner right there. Like, there's no Patriots, for example. All those years with the Patriots,
I'm gonna stop you. You don't think the 49ers are that team?
So they are, but they aren't. Because the 49ers the last 3-4 years have been the best team in the NFC.
Yeah,
They've gone to the Super Bowl maybe once in that whole span.
that's because they haven't had a quarterback, and
And I don't know if Brock Purdy he's a good game manager, but I don't know if he can make the big play.
that's all right. That does not matter. When
But
you have
at some point, the quarterback's gonna have to make a play, and I don't know if he's gonna be able to.
yeah, okay, I'll give you that. The whole reason I'm just tired of, and I'm not a San Fran guy. I like him, but all this excuses for Brock Purdy not being the MVP is just out of. It's just nuts. If I can find it, I'll send it to you. About it was all the he can't do this, he can't do that, he can't do this. Oh, he's doing this, he's in this. All that talk just needs to stop.
Yeah. No, I'm not hating on Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, but I just don't know if you take away the running game. Now I understand you could say the exact same thing about Jared Goff and basically every quarterback in the league right now. But if you take the running game away from San Francisco, I don't know if Purdy can make enough plays to win the game.
Oh, I think he can.
And time will tell, obviously, on that one. The 49ers, though, are the best team in the NFC, but I just don't know. If you get hot at the right time, that's basically what the NFL is all about, is getting hot at the right time.
Hmm.
The Eagles are going the wrong way, and then they're basically making moves that are panicky by having Matt Patricia call your defensive plays, which, you know, why would anybody hire Matt Patricia to call any plays? Did they not watch the games with the Lions? Like,
Yeah, especially that was it that Monday night game against the Jets?
his very first game as a head coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was like all excited about Matt Patricia.
You
He
bought into
acted,
the Patriots Kool-Aid, didn't you?
yeah, I did. And then I'm like, hey, all right, we got a coach who's smart, who's gonna scheme up a good defense for us. And then the Jets game happened. I go, oh no, we're in trouble. And after that, the first game with the Jets, I was just like done with Patricia already, and I'm like, all right, this is not gonna end well. But I'm not saying the Lions are the best team in the NFC. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the two best teams in the league right now are the Ravens and the 49ers. And I would not be shocked if those two teams make it to the Super Bowl. And in
Right.
fact, they play each other this week. So somebody's gonna have to lose. But they're the two hottest teams in the league right now. But I don't know. I just don't think I think something weird's gonna happen in the playoffs this year. And I'm not saying the Lions making a run. I don't think Lions defense is good enough to carry them. Because at some point the defense also has to make a play. I don't trust the Lions defense to make a play. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But we'll try to keep today a little bit on the shorter end for you guys. So we're going to move on to our game picks now. And we'll talk more about playoff football when we get closer to there, make some predictions on who we think is going to win and stuff like that. But we'll move on to this week's games. Thursday night football this week, we have the LA Rams. Well, I almost said St. Louis Rams there against the New Orleans Saints. This is one of the few matchups we have this week where both starting quarterbacks are relatively healthy. We got Matt Stafford for the Rams and Derek Carr for the Saints. The Saints are in the race for the NFC South just because they're not the Panthers and they've won more than 2 games. That's pretty much the criteria to be in the race right now in that division. The Rams are one of the more shocking teams in the league this year. They were expected to take a huge step back, but they're in the playoff race here. I have them winning this game. I think Stafford and the Rams continue their race for the playoffs. I think they sneak in, and so they do that they help with their case by beating the Saints this week.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that one. I got the Rams winning this game.
Next game we got is the Bengals and the Steelers. These two teams played 3-4 weeks ago, and it was the first game after Matt Canada got fired by the Steelers. The Steelers offense looked amazing that game. They have not done much since. In fact, they are switching to Mason Rudolph at quarterback this week and trying to jumpstart their offense that way because Trubisky hasn't been the answer. So they're going to move to Mason Rudolph. And Joe Burrow, obviously with his wrist injury, is out for the rest of the year. So they're sticking with Jake Browning, who has played really impressive so far for the Bengals. The Bengals have won their last 3 games, while the Steelers have lost their last 3 games. And I think those trends continue. I have the Bengals winning this game.
Yeah, me too. Anytime you have a team starting a new quarterback, doesn't matter if he's played before. But it's just a change for the offense, for the wide receivers, tight ends, even the offensive line trying to go back and forth between quarterbacks and communication. I think it's just going to be too confusing, too much for them. They won't have any rhythm, so I'm going to take the Bengals in this game.
I will say this though, I think Mason Rudolph being in that system for as long as he had, I don't think it's that much of an adjustment, but it is still an adjustment. And the Bengals are just playing really good football right now.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have the Bills and the Chargers. The Bills, Josh Allen is one of the few healthy quarterbacks left in the league. They are playing for their lives right now. They had a rough stretch this season, and they're in danger of missing the playoffs. The Chargers are coming off a embarrassing loss. There's no other way to put it than embarrassing loss against the Raiders last Thursday, where they were down 42-0 at halftime. Easton Stick, that by the way, his parents when they named him, they had a hockey player in mind. Changed my mind. Or football or baseball, I mean, or something.
Baseball.
Not
It's
baseball.
baseball.
That's what it's baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, Easton's baseball. Not football. He was not born to be a football player.
No.
Anyways, but he is in the NFL now, and if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you're pretty good. I don't care if anyways. Josh Allen though and the Bills, they are playing for their lives right now. The Chargers, we talked about the other day, they have an interim coach now, and normally what happens is when you get an interim coach, you play really well for 1 week and you end up winning that game. I just think though the Bills are playing for their lives right now and are the better team. So I think the Bills will win this one. But I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be a close game.
I'll describe it as the Bills right now, or even though they need a lot of help, they're in playoff mode right now.
Yeah.
Where they got to win. If they win out, they still need help, but right now they're in playoff mode. And I think last week they proved that they can run the ball. And they don't really need Allen to do it all. Especially against I don't know. The Cowboys are weird. They can't win on the road. They don't show up on the road. At home, they're undefeated, but that's another
Well,
story.
we'll talk about the Cowboys here in a little bit, but the
Yeah.
Cowboys' run defense is also that's how you beat them is run the ball.
Yeah.
And
And
we'll
yeah.
talk about them later. But that was a
And
good
those,
strategy by Joe Brady and company for
yeah.
the Bills.
Yep. So I'm gonna stick with the Bills because, like I said, they're in their playoff mode right now.
Next, we got the Colts and the Falcons. The Falcons are switching back to Taylor Heineke at quarterback. The Colts, obviously Anthony Richardson, their rookie quarterback, got injured early in the year. Now they're sticking with Gardner Minshew. This is an interesting game. The Colts, I think the Colts will win this game, but the Falcons, their defense is tough and they keep the game scoring low. The issue is, I just don't know if the offense can score enough points to win. So I'm going to take the Colts here to win this one.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that one.
Next, we got the Seahawks and the Titans. The Seahawks, everything I've seen, Geno Smith should be back. They just beat the Eagles on Monday night, which it was a weird game. If you haven't been able to tell by now, we're both Lions fans. It was a weird game for Lions fans because if the Eagles won that game, the Lions would have clinched a playoff spot. But with the Seahawks winning, we are still actually, if we win out, we're the 2 seed. So, which the 2 seed is good. It's not as good as it used to be because not only the 1 seed gets a bye, but we'll talk more about that in the future. Anyways, the Seahawks with Geno Smith and the Titans with Ryan Tannehill. Uh, this is another game that's really tough to pick. The Seahawks are literally playing for their playoff life right now. And the Titans, they're always in the playoff race, but this year they're actually not. I believe they're actually mathematically eliminated from the playoffs in the AFC. If not, they don't have a good chance at all. So we'll. This is one of those teams that I could see spoiling things, but we just don't know how they're going to respond. So I'm going to take the Seahawks to win this game.
Yeah, there's a few of these games for picks. I basically flipped a quarter for it. And this one ended up with the Seahawks winning this game.
Next, we got the Lions and the Vikings. Like I said, the Lions when we were talking about the Lions game, last week against the Broncos, they did a lot of blitzing. And I think that's the strategy again this week. The Vikings are starting Nick Mullins at quarterback, the old 49ers backup. Josh Dobbs got benched. Mullins started last week. He did throw for 300 yards, but he also threw 2 really crucial interceptions. And I think if you can put some pressure on him, make him throw the ball a little too early, I think you can get some free turnovers off him. And I think that's the strategy. And I think that's what the Lions are going to do. And then the Vikings defense is really good, but the Lions offense is just so dynamic. There's so many different ways they can attack you. So I think the Lions are going to win this one and clinch the division.
Yeah, I think it's kind of how the whole season has been for the Lions. It's if their starting 5 offensive line are healthy, then the Lions look unbeatable. For the most part.
I did
Or
speak
their
on that,
offense.
though. I did see that Panay Sewell was limited in practice today.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. So now he's able to practice some, so I would assume he's able to play.
Yeah.
But that is something to keep your eye on
Yeah,
while you're.
I think the offensive line carries this team, and
Yeah.
they end up beating the Vikings and clinching the playoff berth, whatever you want to call it.
Next, we have a matchup between the Commanders and the Jets. This game doesn't really excite me too much, but Commanders, Sam Howell, and the Jets are going to Trevor Siemian because Aaron Rodgers, even though he's back practicing with the team, they said, no, we're good. We're not going to make the playoffs. Why risk hurting you further? So it's going to be Trevor Siemian this week. This is, you just said a coin flip game. This was a coin flip game for me because both teams suck.
Yeah.
And I think the Commanders have basically given up on Ron Rivera and company. I don't think he has much say in the locker room anymore. And I think that's actually a thing in sports is once you lose confidence in your coach, I think your season is pretty much done. But at the same time, I don't know how much confidence the Jets have in Robert Saleh anymore. Now, I understand this season has been basically shattered by Aaron Rodgers' injury, but you have to have a better plan than what they've had. And
Right.
you wonder if the players are just losing confidence in the front office and the coaching staff. I picked the Jets to win this game just because I think their defense is better, and I honestly could see this one being like a 10-3 game where the Jets defense gets a pick six. Like that's honestly how I feel this game could go.
Yeah, like I said earlier, another coin flip game, and I'm gonna take the home Jets team.
Next, we got the Green Bay Packers who lost last week to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Panthers who beat the Falcons last week in a rainy game in Carolina. This game will also be in Carolina. Did you see the post on Facebook last week about the ticket prices in Carolina?
It was like $4 at one point.
Yeah, I think they were actually some were going for like literally like 50, 60 cents. Uh,
Jeez.
so if that's the case again this week, and tickets are, I don't know if it's going to be that cheap, but if tickets are on the cheaper end, Packer fans will eat those up. So
Yeah,
this will basically be a home game for the Packers if that's the case, which I don't see why that wouldn't be the case.
right.
And the Packers, they like I think they're probably in the same situation as the Bills that they need help, but they're still in the playoff race themselves. Um, the difference is Josh Allen and Jordan Love. But I just think the Packers are the better team
Yeah,
overall than the Panthers. The only way the Panthers could win this game, I think, is if the same thing happens with the last week game with the Panthers with the weather. That's the only scenario I see the Panthers winning this game. But overall, I'm thinking the Packers are going to win this game.
yeah. And I would say Jordan Love's better than Desmond Ritter,
Yeah.
who's Atlanta's quarterback. But yeah, I'm taking the Packers in this game.
Uh, Actually, the Falcons are starting Taylor Heineke this week. They're done with
Well,
Ritter.
either way, okay,
Yeah.
he's better than both of them. So
Yeah, he is. Um, and then Browns, Texans. CJ Stroud, I believe, is coming back this week. All signs are making it look like he's coming back this week from his concussion. So that'll help the Texans. But the Browns defense, I think, is just way too much, especially without Tank Dell for the Texans. So I'll take the Browns to win this one.
yeah, I'm taking my boy, the elite quarterback Joe Flacco, to win them another game, carry it on, and beating.
Next, we got the Jaguars and the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, like I just said, beat the Packers last week at Lambeau. It was actually the first time an opposing quarterback has had a perfect passer rating at Lambeau Field. Now, passer rating is a flawed stat in football. I understand that,
Doesn't make
but
any sense.
it does not make any sense whatsoever. But it's still impressive that he's the first to ever have a perfect passer rating at Lambeau as an opposing quarterback. Especially think of all the quarterbacks throughout the years. I mean, this is like of all times, like Roger Staubach, Tom Brady's played in that stadium. No, not a lot, granted, but Peyton
Right.
Manning's played there again, not a lot, granted. Um, and then no, the division hasn't had a lot of greats. I mean, the Bears really haven't had any great quarterbacks. So it is kind of a flawed stat, but it is impressive nonetheless. But anyways, the Jaguars though, Trevor Lawrence is questionable for this game. He's been dealing with a concussion and an ankle injury, and honestly, he hasn't looked like himself the last few weeks. The
Hmm.
Jaguars have lost their last 3 games, while the Buccaneers are playing good football right now. So I'm gonna take the Buccaneers to win this one.
Yeah, I think the Bucks are ride their winning streak right now, and Baker Mayfield's impressive from earlier on in the season. I think they're just gonna end up winning this game.
Next, we got the Cardinals and the Bears. The Cardinals are having a not a great season. The Bears have been playing better as of late. The win against the Lions really was good for the Bears. Um, I think they'll win this one. I just don't think the Cardinals are playing at a high level at all right now, and the Bears have figured something out. So I'll take the Bears to win this game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. Did you watch their game or the highlight of their game last week?
No, which one?
The
The
Bears,
Bears?
the Bears, the
No,
Hail Mary.
I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, so they had a chance to win it. They throw it down the field, it gets tipped. Uh, is it Mooney? I think Darnell Mooney
Yeah, it was
is in
Moody.
the. Yeah, he's like falling down. He has basically in his pocket or in his bread basket, whatever you want to call it, pops up right to the Browns defender. He intercepts it, runs it out to the 3-yard line, falls down. Game over. So I think the Bears should have won that game because if you hang on to the ball, you win, obviously.
Yep.
But they've been playing impressive lately, and their defense has been pretty not great, but not terrible. They've been keeping them in the game, so I'm gonna take the Bears in this game.
The Bears made that trade for Montez Sweat and then extended him. So far that trade's looked up like it's worked out for the Bears. We'll see long term how it works out, but so far this year, it looks like a good trade for the Bears. Next, we got one of my favorite matchups of this week. It's two teams who, on paper, have played really good football this year, but have struggled against really good teams, and that's the Cowboys and the Dolphins. There's something about this game that I think the Dolphins will win, and that is the Cowboys' rush defense. And the Dolphins, yeah, we got all excited about Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Tua. There's a lot of exciting pieces on their pass offense, but the Dolphins know how to run the ball. And the Bills just ran over all over Dallas. And Buffalo, when you think Buffalo Bills, you don't think running the football. And they were able to run all over the Cowboys. You get a team that's designed to run the ball and has a coach that has the running background of Mike McDaniel. I think it's a recipe for the Dolphins to win this game. So I'm going to take the Dolphins to win.
Yeah, man, sorry, I'm struggling over here right now.
No, you're
Uh,
good.
I think Dolphins are gonna win this game. If you look at the Cowboys, I'm trying to look it up right now as we speak. Struggling. They are 3-4 on the road, so they're not very good on the road for whatever reason. They you feel like they should be. And like we talked about earlier, the Bills just said, Josh Allen, we're not gonna have you throw it. We're just gonna run it. Um, so I think that's what's gonna end up happening with the Dolphins if their Tyreek Hill and Waddle start slacking, or passing game's not going away. I think all they gotta do is go to the run, get run in the game, take the ball away from the Cowboys, and I think they'll end up winning this game.
And like I said, I think the Dolphins offense is more designed to run the ball than the Bills offense is.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's why I'm picking the Dolphins. Sunday night football this week. The NFL must have thought that all of us will be with our families and not watching football on Sunday night because they gave us the Patriots and the Broncos, and they didn't flex the game out.
yeah.
So I'm just assuming they don't want us watching Sunday night football this week because this matchup doesn't really excite me. The Patriots are a mess. I will be shocked if Bill Belichick is back as both GM and coach next year. I could possibly see them work out something where he stays the coach, but no more GM. But it's probably the last year of Belichick. And then the Broncos, who as of late have been playing better. They did get beat by the Lions at Ford Field. But I just think this is a good matchup for the Broncos. I see the Broncos winning this one.
Yeah, I think Wilson will have a bounce back game. I think Denver's defense will also have a bounce back game.
Well,
Do you
yeah, the
even know
defense.
who's starting against the or who's starting for the Patriots?
I think it's still Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, exactly. So no one really knows who's starting. It's not going to be a huge surprise. Both quarterbacks are vanilla. I think Broncos defense, after they got embarrassed by the Lions last week, they'll make they'll get those turnovers again like they were earlier when they were on their winning streak, and have a nice bounce back game against the Patriots and win this game easily.
Yeah. Did you see the? I can't remember what game it was, but I think it was Bailey Zappi's first start in this stretch of games he's been starting. They won whatever matchup that was, and he goes in the locker room, and him and Bill O'Brien are like high fiving, hugging, screaming, and then he goes over to Bill Belichick and goes, "Good game, sir." It's just crazy, like how different it is with the relationship with Bill
Yeah.
Belichick. Now I understand there's like a level of reverence with him
Hmm.
because I mean it's Bill Belichick. He's arguably the greatest coach in the history of football. Um, but still, at some like you got to have some emotion, especially in football. It's a very emotional game, and I just think the game has passed Bill Belichick a little bit. It's crazy. But yeah, the Broncos should win this one. Monday has 3 games for us. The first one being the Raiders and the Chiefs. The Raiders have been playing really good football under interim head coach Anthony Pierce. But I just think the Chiefs they got to start playing good football here soon. Like they got to hit their stride if they want to make a run in the playoffs. And I think it starts now. I think the Chiefs play better and they should beat the Raiders.
Yeah, I agree. Chiefs are not like how they have been recently with their offense. He won't come out and say it, but we all know that Mahomes is upset with Tony and how many times he's cost him the game.
Yeah.
I think he's going to avoid trying to get him the ball, kind of shut him out, and I think they'll end up winning this game though because they got Patrick Mahomes.
Yep. The next game we have the Giants and the Eagles. The Eagles again coming off a rough loss last Monday this past Monday, I should say, against the Seahawks. The Giants came back down to earth a little bit last week. The Eagles have been struggling the last couple weeks. I almost want to pick the Giants to win this game because when it comes to like games, and we'll talk, I do have a plan for like the best rivalries in sports, and the Giants Eagles. Actually, the whole NFC East, I think, is literally one big rivalry. And when you're playing rivals, you kind of almost throw records out the window, and especially when you can hurt your opponent's playoff chances. Now the Eagles are in the playoffs no matter what, but if they don't win, they're probably at the 5 seed for the playoffs. 3 or 5 is basically where the Eagles will end up, if or 2, if they keep losing. But I just can't pick against the Eagles. Like part of me really thinks the Giants are going to win this game, but I'm going to pick the Eagles, just because I think they're the better team and that's going to carry them. But don't be shocked if the Giants come out and win this game.
Are you calling an upset alert but not calling it?
I did this a couple weeks ago too, and I think it was the Steelers and the Cardinals, and I said I want to pick the Cardinals, but I just can't do it. And then the Cardinals came out and won that game, and I'm having the same feeling with this game. I just can't do it. Like,
Well, you know what? I'm going to change my pick. I'm going to take the Giants in this game.
just because of the
Yeah,
Steelers.
yeah. So I can rub it in your face next week when that happens. Like Brandon, start going with your gut, man.
Like, I almost did, but I'm like, there's no way I can make this pick. Like,
Come on, you got Timmy Cutlets back there.
yeah.
What?
Tommy DeVito, who just fired his agent, by the way.
Did he really?
Yeah. Like, if you guys need to like Google Tommy DeVito's agent,
That dude is hilarious.
he looks like a guy who'd be an agent for last name DeVito.
Yeah.
Like the guy looks like an Italian Bob or boss man, like mob boss.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what he looks like. So, I mean, no, he's not his agent anymore. I don't know who he went with, but I saw that DeVito fired his agent, and I started laughing at that just because, like, he had the perfect agent for who he was.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, I want to put them on upset alert, but I just can't pick against them.
Oh my god! All right, I'll take them. I will do.
You'll be the man for me.
Take
Thanks.
them. Yeah.
Thanks.
And then finally, go put $1 in the jar. Come on, go put it in the jar.
You know, we should get a jar like a Venmo or something. I don't know how to work it out, but
we'll figure it out. We'll talk off air about it.
We'll figure something about it.
Yeah.
And then finally this week we got the game of the week, and this one actually no sarcasm, with the Ravens and the 49ers. Possible Super Bowl preview. We talked about that a little bit ago. Lamar and Purdy. Lamar is that quarterback that you can have the perfect defense for, and he still ruins it. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was ESPN Daily, but I'm not entirely sure on that. But they were talking about an old high school coach that played against Lamar Jackson, and he felt like he let his kids down because he didn't have a good enough game plan for Lamar Jackson. And then Jackson obviously goes off to Louisville, and he watches this coach watch Jackson do the same exact things in college that he was doing to him in high school. And then he goes to the NFL, and he's doing the same things to NFL teams. And the coach goes, "Man, I can coach in the NFL." So Lamar Jackson is just a special athlete. Um, Brock Purdy and company, San Francisco, top to bottom, I think San Francisco does have the best roster in the NFL. I know I said I don't know if I can pick them for the Super Bowl yet, but top to bottom, I do think they're the best team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's just something about Lamar Jackson that I just can't take. And this is one of those games where I feel like it's going to come down to one possession. And it honestly could come down to kicker. Like, that's how close of a matchup this one is. And Justin Tucker is arguably the best kicker in NFL history. So I'm going to take the Ravens in a very close game.
This was my third coin flip one, but this is more of the better teams instead of the worst teams that I would normally do for the coin flip. And I would it ended up being the 49ers. Like I said, both good teams, potential Super Bowl preview. Yeah, I have the 49ers in this game.
So that is all we have for you guys today. This will be the last time we talk to you guys, unless if something happens and we have to do an emergency podcast, which has happened before. So if this is in fact the last podcast, Merry Christmas to you guys. I hope you guys have a great Christmas holiday with your friends and family. And if Christmas is a hard time of year, because I know holidays with loss of family or families that just aren't close with each other, I know that can be difficult. So you guys are loved by us. Even if we don't know you, we appreciate you guys listening to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope you guys have a great Christmas day and season, with whatever you guys choose to do. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Links for all those are in the description. Like and comment. Like I said, we'll have the Facebook group really active, so be sure to be part of that. If you guys have any topics you want us to cover, shoot us a message on the Facebook page. We do have a lot of ideas for the near future on different topics. Like I said, next week we're going to talk about who the Babe Ruth of sports is. We also have different ideas for like ranking movies, sports movies, which the Mighty Ducks will probably be on both of our lists. And if it's not, I'll take these jerseys down and put something else there. Maybe I'll do that anyways, switch it up a little bit, get some different jerseys up for you guys. Anyways, thank you guys so much for checking us out. And have a great Christmas, and we'll talk to you guys next week.